we have a couple here. We see you got a couple minute or so here, and we'll get started. Make sure I have everything in order. Most importantly, all right. Cheers. We'll shoot some very fast. So we're going to cover three different issues today. Talk some technique and talk a little bit putting on the edge. So welcome you guys. Thanks for. Thank you to my lovely assistant behind the camera. She'll probably be a little quiet to you, but I'll be able to hear. It's the technical things. So 3 different dishes today, and they're all basic dishes, but they'll have lots of kind of different riffs on them that are fun to talk about. So first thing we're going to do is deviled eggs. So deviled eggs require the eggs to be hard cooked. Boiled is the common term for that, but hard cooked. So fully cooked white, fully cooked inner, and then there's a gazillion recipes out there, but they all basically include taking the inside of the fully cooked egg and mixing it with some sort of cream, mayonnaise, sour cream, some sort of fat, and other various stuff. And those are all easy recipes. So we're going to cover that today, but really I want to talk a little bit about technique, because when you get a fully cooked egg, it's crazy because you can cook it lots of different ways and get lots of different results in the same result at the same time. So first thing we're talking about, boiled eggs. So to boil an egg, I guess everyone has their rules or how they do it or what works for them. I guess if you have a rule and you totally disagree with this, feel free to leave a comment and let me know. But this is just a pot of cold water with a couple of eggs. And I'm going to boil it. So I'm going to take that pot of cold water, a couple of eggs, and we're going to bring them to a boil. And as soon as we bring them to a boil, I don't need that for this second. As soon as we bring them to a boil, then we'll let it go for a minute more, and then we'll turn off the heat and cover it. My timing is I generally let it sit 8 minutes or so. Not usually less than 8 minutes, and not usually a lot more than 9 or 10. So for me, that's a pretty decent result. If you have a way that works perfect and you've been doing it and it works awesome for you, let me know. That's the fun thing about playing with food. There's lots of different ways to get to the same result. So the reason why you don't want to put the cold egg or the raw egg into boiling water is because 2 things are going to happen. One, you're going to shock that egg and the shell is going to crack. An egg is not a solid thing. It is porous. So when you allow a bunch of hot water into that porous structure, it's going to crack it, and then your egg isn't going to cook right. Or you're going to have such a hard time taking that raw egg and putting it into that boiling water without dropping it in there, and as it drops, it hits the bottom and cracks, and then you get the same end result. Also, I did a little preview for you, so I'm going to see if I can get this. I'll get this close up, maybe. If you can't see it, I apologize. But these 2 eggs were cooked the exact same time with those 2 techniques I spoke of. And this one, putting the egg into the hot boiling water without cracking it and getting lucky and not cracking the shell, cooked the outside, but the inside isn't fully cooked. So if I was going to continue cooking this, what happens is that this white will begin to overcook, and that's what starts to turn your yolk gray. So you're too hot to get a nice even cook. Much like if you were searing a steak and it was really, really thick. Well, that first couple inches is going to be cooked, and that inside's still going to be raw. So with this method, and this is a preference for me, is I enjoy it fully cooked, but I do want just a little bit of texture in there. I don't want it fully dry, like crumbly. Now, some people say no, it needs to be fully dry crumbly, so that's what that looks like. And you can see I'm actually beginning to get a little bit of graying there. Now the reason why I'm getting a little bit of graying here is because this, as it relates to the big green egg, or the grill, these were roasted and smoked. So you can accomplish the same thing as far as a hard-cooked egg with a little bit of variance. One of them is you can roast them, so just put it on your indirect grill, 350 degrees, 15 minutes, and pull them off the grill, run them under cold running water to cool them off, and then you can peel them. And that's the result you're going to get. The other thing that you can't detect over this connection is that you'll actually get a hint of smoke or grill flavor from that egg, especially if you're making them early in the day or the day before and they're going to sit there for a little while. You're actually going to pick up some flavor from that. Or you can smoke the egg. So you can actually put that on your indirect grill, 250 degrees, a little bit of smoking wood or with something you're already smoking. Half hour or so, pull those off the grill, and then again, run them on cold water, cool them, peel them. Much stronger. Again, because these shells are porous, they allow flavor through them. So just a couple of cool different ways to cook the eggs and get some different flavor going on in the grill. Give it a try and let me know what you guys think, for sure. All right. I'm going to set that to the side. And show you another kind of riff on the egg. So another way to add a little different flavor to the eggs. So we talked about the fillings. You can take, so here's a good example. I've got some mayonnaise. I've got a little bit of gochujang. I have a little bit of wasabi powder. And then here I actually have a little bit of cured egg yolk, which is taking egg yolk and packing it in sugar and salt. It actually hardens and becomes this really savory, delicious thing. So that is going to make a pretty cool filling. You can add ground meats and roasted vegetables and all sorts of different things to your filling if you wish. Really, there's no real wrong way to do it. Then we talked about how to cook them. Now another way is the Easter egg way. Like we said, the shells are porous, so they'll absorb flavor. So one way to do is to cook the egg in one of any of the ways we just talked about, and then run the egg under cold running water, and then put it into a flavoring solution. So, so this is a mixture of soy sauce and a little bit of vinegar, black bean paste, and sweet chili sauce, and all those flavors over a period of time, minimum 4 hours, but you could do this overnight if you wanted to. Will absorb through the shell. If you use food coloring in here, that food coloring will actually pull through the shell. Or if you use something like beet juice or something like that, it'll actually pull through the shell and you'll get some of that veining. And you can see some of the cracks in that skin. Well, maybe you can. I got some of that veining through here. Kind of cool. And then taking care of your egg so you don't mash it and destroy it. You know, you ask your kids to do one thing: cut the eggs in half and get the filling out. And you end up with this whole, well, you end up with egg salad, basically. You don't have anything to put the mixture in. So, just a couple of things. thin bladed knife, so something like that, or even a fillet knife would be better. The less going through the egg is better. And then it's just wet and a little bit of water, or in this particular instance we have the solution. And then it cuts through really nicely without tearing it up or messing up the inside. And then to pop them out, just lay them down, and then you can peel them back a little bit. And then if it needs a little coercion, how do you say that word? I don't know how to say that word. We will just peel them out. Okay. And now we have our egg mixture that we can add. So this has absorbed some of that marinade, and then we can even take a little bit of this marinade as well. Add to that. And that becomes a really delicious filling. So, a few different ways to cook your eggs. If you guys have a favorite recipe style, I know that all of us, I feel like that's one of the first things that get devoured when you put them out to begin the meal. I think you have to start telling people you're not allowed to eat them yet, but those are just vague rules, really, so we don't follow them too well. All right, so, excuse me while I take a drink. How you doing, honey? Good. All right, so next item, cheesy potatoes. All right, so we all love our potatoes, love our starch, so this is just a really good, high fat, not low diet recipe for indulgence. And of course we're gonna cook it on the grill, and we're gonna use a Dutch oven to cook it. So side. Excuse me. All right. So we've got a Dutch oven here, indirect heat, 350 degrees. The minor little riff on this is I'm using my cast iron grate to support this Dutch oven because I want everything to stay pretty hot, and that includes a nice hot bottom to get everything kind of cooking and reducing, because this is a wet, creamy mixture. We want to reduce that cream into a nice sauce, versus this indirect or smoking setup, even roasting, baking, in which it's sitting on a wire rack, which is much like it would be in your oven, giving us that indirect heat. So that's really the difference. And then I've just preheated this a little bit because I kind of want to see you guys. The first part of this this recipe is just kind of getting everything hot and getting the potatoes hot and getting all that cream hot, and it starts to get hot. And then once that happens, you would pull off the lid, and so the water can start to evaporate, and we can start to get a nice brown cheesy top. So, yeah, I'm going to leave that off to start, because this is already preheated, so we're good to go. All right. So let's talk about our mixture. Potatoes. Russet potatoes, please. Russet potatoes are preferential to me when cooking them for a long period of time because they have a lot less starch in them. New potatoes are great for like roasted potato recipes, grilled potato recipes, items where you're not necessarily cooking the potatoes as long, because the longer you cook them, the longer you cook a new potato, the more kind of pasty or starchy it becomes. So a russet potato, which is an older potato, they're usually larger, have a lot less of that starch and a lot more of that delicious potato flavor. So a couple different ways we can prep these potatoes. You can just go russet and just chop them up however you want, home style. You can dice them. Just the important thing is that they're somewhat of all the same size, and then that size is really going to determine how long it all takes to cook. But you really want them consistent in size and not really over a quarter inch. And so that's just a cheesy potato, or potatoes au gratin, potatoes with cheese. If you wanted to do fancy scalloped potatoes, you could use something like a mandolin. So mandolins are, just this little slider that has a built-in blade, and then you can adjust how thick or thin, little dial on the back. And they normally have a handle or a guard on them that you put on here, and then you separate you and the potato, or you, whatever you're slicing. I don't have that guard because so I'm just going to go ahead and slice them without the guard. It should be fine, really. I don't know what could possibly go wrong. But just to show you some scalloped potatoes. All right. So we'll just slice some potatoes. You're nervous. I'm not nervous. You're nervous. And get some nice thin. You can see I'm just going the length of potato. So I want some nice surface coverage. Maybe one more. Now we'll do one. We'll do it faster. What? It's fine. Alright. But you can see a lot of potato. It doesn't take much potato to suddenly become a lot of potato. So generally, if you're cooking potatoes for people, 4 to 6 ounces of potatoes is a lot of potatoes for one person. So if you're cooking 8 ounces of potatoes because you want leftovers and all that good stuff per person, it's a lot of potatoes. You're going to have a lot of potatoes. So this is about 3/4 of a pound of potatoes. 12 ounces. All right. And if we were not going to prep these immediately, you want to put them in some water, a little bit of citric acid. That'll keep those potatoes from turning brown. Otherwise, you're going to want to prep them immediately. So we're going to put them into a mixing bowl. There's my mixing bowl. And there's a couple different ways you can do it with the scalloped potatoes. You could use those potatoes in line. The bottom of your Dutch oven. So it's all nice, one layer. And then take your rest and we'll mix it with the awesome ingredients. Sure. Garlic. Some cheese. Parmesan. So cheddar and Parmesan cheeses. Minced garlic. We'll just mix that all up with the potatoes. And then some cream, and if you want to use a little bit of milk, you can, but all cream is nice. And then we'll just mix that all together. Put it in this Dutch oven. Beautiful. And then we'll give it salt and pepper. Some cheese on top. And then we're just going to bake this for about 30 minutes or so. If you guys have not seen kind of what the after something like this looks like, we took a picture of it, threw it up on our Facebook page, I think, so you can check out that picture, kind of see what it's after. Once it's done baking, it's always fun to finish it with either some fresh herbs or aromatics, or of course, if you're going full-on meat, chopped bacon or ground beef or ground sausage, anything of that nature, and it's going to be delicious. So, fun, cheesy potato dish. We'll let that bake. Let me know. 15 minutes, 20 minutes, let's go. All right. Oh, sorry guys. Just had something fall down. Let me grab that. Sorry. There we go. Sure can. It sure has. All right, guys. This has been fun. Oh. Apparently, I missed all the news. I was having a great time. I was driving down the road, just enjoying the scenery. Totally missed my exit. All right, guys. Let me show you the ham. Let's talk ham. So, there's a few different kinds of ham out there. First, let's talk about where the ham comes from. Just a quick education on the anatomy of the ham. So, a Boston butt has nothing to do with the ham and does not come from the butt. A ham is the butt. So, the ham is the rear end of the pig. This is a ham shank, meaning it's partial ham. There's a front half here that's missing, and then it's the shank part, so the leg part, the upper part. And that's a ham. Now there's lots of different varieties. If you look there, you can see all of that different muscle. So there are a lot of different butchers who can cut off all these individual muscles and sell you a ham. And it could be one of those muscles from a ham, especially if you're buying a really small piece of ham. Maybe it's just a little 1 or 2 pound piece of ham. It might be a whole piece of muscle, and it might be called ham, but it's not this. It's just one little piece of that whole thing. So that's important to understand. The other thing that's important to understand is that this is all individual muscle. This is from the pig, but there's also things known as pressed ham or pressed turkey, which is lots of different parts of the pig that are ground up and then pressed together and then labeled as ham because it's been flavored as such. So ham is a weird term because it's used as a label for the part of the pig, and it's also used as the flavor of something. Something can be ham flavored, and so that can confuse people sometimes. So that's where the ham is from and what the ham is. Now the other thing to understand is that 99% of the time when you buy a ham, it's already cooked. Your ham that you buy at the store, if you look closely at your package, your label, it'll say fully cooked ham or fully smoked ham. And most all of your recipes that involve cooking ham involve putting something on it and reheating it and either forming a crust on it or infusing it with some sort of flavor. So that is the most common thing that you'll find. The other kinds of ham you'll find are just raw hams, commonly from your butcher, and commonly you're requesting it. They're not just putting it out for sale. Or The other thing that you find commonly from your butcher are uncooked cured hams. So these are the hams that have gone through the curing process, which is much like what you would do if you're making corned beef. Corned beef is what you do to beef brisket. You virtually do the exact same thing to a ham, and that's pork. So same type of curing method, same kind of type of timing, and then you bring home that cured, uncooked ham, and then you cook it for a long period of time, either roasting it or smoking it. So those are the three most common types of hams that you're going to come across. And then that fourth being like that lunch meat pressed kind of stuff. So we've got a smoked ham hock here. One of the reasons why I like making sure that we get the ham hock part is because you get this nice bone through this middle, and you get this delicious, gelatinous marrow. And you can do a couple of things with this bone marrow. You can scoop that out and serve it with dinner, or use it as a baste, or just make sure you save it. It's going to become part of the drippings, and then you can, baste it over the top. But it's delicious. It's meat butter. It's literally meat butter. So, so good. So that's why we like that. Our preparation for a ham, knowing that this has already been smoked and it's fully cooked, what kind of flavor and how do we want to introduce that to the ham? So a most popular method is called a double smoked ham. So this is taking the ham, covering or prepping something, and then actually putting it back on your grill and smoking it just like you would smoke anything else, so that it puts another layer of smoked flavor on there. The benefits of that are, if you like smoky things, it's kind of immediate gratification because the meat has already been fully cooked. You're just heating it up, so you're getting that kind of fully smoked, fully cooked, super long cook time kind of smoke thing going on, and it only takes 45 minutes to really accomplish all of it. The downside to that is that it can oftentimes become really smoky, especially if you're trying to put some sort of glaze on there at the same time. That glaze is going to absorb that smoke. Those sugars are going to absorb that smoke, and it can get really pungent really quickly. So my recommendation is that if you're going to double smoke, just use less smoking wood that you normally would. Just use a small piece, half a piece kind of the amount of wood, or and make sure your glaze is just thinned out a little bit so that's not really, really super sugary. Otherwise, it's going to absorb that smoke too quickly. You're going to have kind of a layer of soot on your ham, and that's not what you're looking for. The other ways that you're going to get ham are a couple of ways. As far as this is this is not sliced. So sometimes you can buy ham that's already pre-sliced or spiral sliced, and that's where the machine just kind of goes around the bone and slice it really thinly. The benefit of that when cooking it is you're going to be able to get more stuff kind of deeper into the meat when you cook it. So the drawback of it is that it tends to dry out a lot quicker because it's all cut open. So there's no place really for the juices to go except just run out. And then you get a larger pan of juices. So it's really just kind of each their own. What I do, a little bit of a cheater method, is I like to take, I'm going to throw this on. We're going to make a quick little glaze. So a little bit of honey and some water and some bourbon. And the bourbon is mixed with the water because I don't want the alcohol to burn off. I want it to be part of this glaze. Now, any sort of sweet and spicy is a good combination with ham. Any sort of fruit, using jellies, like apricot jelly or jalapeno jellies, things like that are all really good bases for kind of glazes or flavor profiles. Obviously, pineapple is really popular, and clove flavor and things like that. So the skin, it's already been smoked, but I just want to pierce this a whole bunch of times. And what this is going to do is enable the glaze that I'm heating up right now to get deeper into the meat. So I want to make some pretty deep gashes, but I'm not going to spiral slice it. So I'm kind of going in between. As far as what spiral sliced ham would be, and what this just trying to get a crust on this ham. I want this glaze to reach down into the meat. I want to try to preserve those juices. It's kind of a lot of effort, I guess, but this is fully cooked, so we're just trying to give it as much love as possible. And then the other thing I like about this is I have this whole cavity here, which I'm going to be able to pour my glaze into. And I'm doing this a day ahead of time. So oftentimes you'll see, make a glaze, put your ham on the grill, heat it up, glaze your ham, blah, blah, blah. I'm actually going to pour my glaze over the ham a day ahead of time so it has time to just kind of seep into all of that meat, and then I'm just going to put it onto the grill and roast it. And then the glaze is going to heat up and work its way down into the meat, and I'm going to have pan juices. So this is exactly how I'll stage it and cook it. All right. And this is just warmed. It's not super hot. But again, this is fully cooked. So I'm not going to hurt this at all with this warm glaze going over the top. Sorry, I know, I'm making a mess. There we go. See, ingenuity, thank you. See? I knew you were there to help. There we go. There we go. Right. So I'm just going to fill up this whole pan. Now, I'm going to let that sit in that marinade overnight / glaze overnight in the refrigerator. Then we'll pull it out tomorrow. I'll pull off that marinade, and then I'll use that to, or glaze, I'll use that to be able to baste while it's cooking. Cook, you just want to get it hot. So I have a remote probe I'll share with you guys. I got that all working, so thanks everyone at Flame Boss. That was my bad. So it works perfectly, and I'll show you guys that, and just showing you, bring it up, 120 is all you really need, 130s, hot enough. If you're trying to get it you don't need to bring it all the way up to 160, 165. It's just way too hot. It's already fully cooked. You're just trying to get it warmed enough and trying to get the glaze going. So unless you're cooking a raw ham, that raw ham needs to come up to 165 for sure. But if it's already been pre-smoked, it's just a matter of getting it hot and then getting your desired glaze going on. So again, indirect heat, 375. If you guys are doing a smoke, 225. Preferred woods are going to be the lighter woods, apple wood for sure. If you want to go, if you can do hickory, okay, you can do hickory if you want. I know that's very popular and would be delicious for sure. So apple, hickory, cherry, probably my first three. I wonder who else. I wonder if anybody tried to use oak. So those are my little tidbits about cooking some ham, doing some deviled eggs, and doing some cheesy potatoes. If any of these tidbits are of any value to you guys, I'm doing these videos. I'm in efforts to raise money for the team. and to support the staff while we're in the current situation we're in. So I really appreciate any tips via the Venmo. The links, I'm sure, are down there in the comments at Chef JJ's. And just an update, you guys, I was, shout out to my team. They were able to receive funds that, helped a lot. So we really appreciate all of that. Really appreciate the continued support of Chef JJ's and of videos. Be sure and hit like and subscribe and tell your friends, and we will continue to do these videos until I guess we're not doing them. So let's do one last check here. See if we're close. Should probably bring it up close. I'm coming out here. I'm gonna get way too close for comfort. But I want you guys to see the cheesy potatoes. So that cream is mostly reduced. It maybe needs just 30 more seconds. And because those potatoes were sliced nice and thin, we're going to have ourselves some cheesy potatoes. I'm sure I have, of course I don't have a spoon over here. Oh my gosh, I want to eat this with my face so badly right now. Ugh, hold on. The suspense. I'm running away from the camera. Hold on, everybody. I know. I wanted them so desperately. I was like, any spoon will work, even this tiny little tasting spoon. There they are. A little bit of scalloped potatoes. And then, of course, because these are mostly cheese and cream, any sort of smoke on this grill at all will be absorbed into this immediately as well. So just be cognizant of that you want a pretty clean cook unless you like that kind of smokier flavor. So then by all means, smoke away. So there you guys go. Thank you guys very, very much. I really appreciate everybody. Again, thank you, Sarah, for behind the scenes. And happy Easter to all of you. And I look forward to seeing you next week. Have a great weekend, everybody.